Hey, Tyler. Welcome, good evening, and welcome to the Federal Way City Council meeting for February 4th of 2020. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, it's great to have everybody here. We've got a good agenda here for you. Before we get started, as you noticed that we've got 6 council members instead of 7. We had our council member Johnson has now effectively resigned from the city council. I want to talk a little bit about that. He's now representing us in the state legislature, and we thank him for that. And we thank him for his 2 years of service to the community at the city council level. So I do want to talk very briefly with you about the timeline to the appointment process for the council. Applications for the city council, it'll be in the paper this weekend, and applications are now open. Applications are due Friday, February 14th, Valentine's Day, and they're due by 4 p.m. on that day. Again, February 14th by 4 p.m. Review of the applications will occur from the 17th, the following Monday, through February 19th. And the city clerk's office will work with King County Elections to confirm applicant has been a registered voter for at least 1 year as per the requirement legally. On February 20th and or the 21st, the city clerk's office will schedule interviews dependent on King County's time frame. Potential interview dates: February 24th for anticipated date for interviews, and or February 26th. Anticipated date for additional interviews if necessary. It is anticipated council will take action the final night of interviews to appoint an individual to the vacant position, followed by an administering of oath of office. So I just want to make sure that people have a clear understanding of how we're going to go through the process. We encourage all interested to apply, and we look forward to a great process. Okay, that being said, we have first under presentations, we've got the police chief commendation, Officer Donovan Hebner, and by Chief Wong. Chief?
Good evening, Mayor Farrell, Deputy Mayor Honda, members of the council. Joining me at the podium is Officer Donovan Hebner, a very special individual who's truly making a positive difference for members of our community and beyond. I'll be presenting Officer Donovan Hebner tonight with a Police Chief Commendation Medal for his involvement with Law Enforcement Torch Run and Washington Special Olympics. Officer Hebner, through his tireless efforts, has led our agency in various fundraising events, raising more than $30,000 last year for Special Olympics Washington, making the Federal Way Police Department one of the top fundraising police agencies in the state. We were second for total funds raised. We have a very generous community. On behalf of Special Olympic athletes and their families, I want to thank Officer Hebner for his continued support for Special Olympics. Special Olympics Washington currently serves more than 19,500 athletes through nearly a dozen different sports and 38 local, regional, and statewide tournaments. The support from our community raised more than $30,000, allowing us to provide opportunities at no charge to the Federal Way athletes or to their families. We personally cannot thank Officer Hebner enough for his dedication and support to our athletes, giving persons with intellectual disabilities to a place where they can be accepted, respected, and given a chance to succeed. Because of the tremendous work and what Officer Hebner's been able to achieve, He was recently appointed to the state director position for the Law Enforcement Torch Run Executive Council, overseeing the fundraising campaign throughout the state. It is with my deepest gratitude that I present Officer Hebner with the Police Chief Commendation Medal. Thank you. Okay, I think there's a picture opportunity. Is this going to be okay, or do you want it in front of the podium? There's the certificate. It's a commendation medal.
I have to say that I'm truly humbled by this. And this really isn't something I do. I don't do it for this. And what I do is not just me, it's a whole team. Lieutenant Gross-Nickel, Lieutenant Benson, Officer Hilly Brem, Officer Alessandro Mariani, the support I get from Special Olympics, Ellie Hardwick up front here. They're the ones who really help make this happen. I'm just a wheel in the whole cog that gets things rolling. So again, I'm really humbled, but thank you.
Thank you, Donovan. Donovan, you're a real credit to the department and this community. Thank you so much. You're a great ambassador. Okay. Proclamation, Black History Month, February. Councilmember Assefa Dawson.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to invite Ms. Ash, teacher at Federal Way High School, to come forward to the podium to receive this proclamation. And I am honored to have you as our recipient because Ms. Ash was my son's teacher, and I'm sure Jesse Johnson would also agree with the fact, with having you receive this. And thank you for what you have done and what you continue to do at Federal Way. Before that, do you mind if I read,
Please,
make
yes.
a statement? Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to say a personal statement about Black History Month and what it means to me, and this is just me. So as part of Black History Month and what it signifies to me, first I would like to acknowledge that it's because of the African Americans who throughout American history paid a price to make it possible for me to sit here as a council member and serve alongside of you. This is part of a larger legacy of the Black people who came before me, who have suffered through an outstanding and long-standing racism and have paved the way through work and sacrifice to make sure that people like me could have the opportunity to be treated as equal. I am a mother of 3 sons who I always told, do not wear your hoodie if it's not raining, don't sit in the back of the bus, or if you get pulled over, make sure your hands are on the steering wheel, or, and then most notably, do your best and do the best at school because opportunities get slimmer for you as a Black kid for higher education and beyond. Last Saturday, we had a very productive council retreat, but then there were statements that were made that left me feeling a bit helpless once again. They made me realize more than ever that there's a long-standing history of awkwardness and lack of intentionality of addressing racial equity in Federal Way. I believe leadership should have a shared language and understanding of what it means to be racist, what white privilege is, and what reverse racism is. It's sad to me, but it's my reality, and it's sad that we're having these conversations in the 21st century. To that end, I would like to encourage all of us to look inward to better understand structural, systemic, and historic racism. And I look forward to working with the council and mayor to put in the extra effort and look for funding to shape our city for racial equity. I will not take for granted the position I have, and I feel very strongly about where we are now and where we should be heading. Let's not just celebrate Black History Month for what has been accomplished in the past, but let's make concerted effort to further make Federal Way a place of opportunity for all and make Federal Way where we make equity our priority. So with that, here's the proclamation. And thank you very much for allowing me to say that. Whereas much of Federal Way's honor, strength, and distinction can be attributed to the diversity of cultures and traditions that are celebrated by the residents of this great region, and whereas African Americans have played a significant role in the history of our nation and Washington State's economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development while working tirelessly to promote their culture and history. And whereas, as a result of their determination, hard work, and perseverance, African Americans have made valuable and lasting contributions to our community and our state, achieving exceptional success in all aspects of society, including business, education, politics, science, and the arts. And whereas all Americans are encouraged to reflect on past successes and challenges of African Americans and look to the future to improve society so that we live up to the ideals of freedom, equity, and justice. And whereas Black History Month grew out of the establishment in 1926 of Black History Week by Carter G. Woodson and the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, and encourages unity and promotes the American ideal of equal education, social, and economic opportunities for all citizens. And whereas the City of Federal Way believes in the equality of all people and recognizes the value added to our community by our diversity. And now therefore, we, the undersigned Mayor and City Council of the City of Federal Way, do hereby proclaim February 2020 as Black History Month in the City of Federal Way, and encourage the people of our city to join together in making this a period of rededication to the principles of justice and equality for all. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to use my teacher voice because if I try to stand behind you can't hear me?
There's a step.
You can't hear my teacher voice? Oh, it's for the, okay. All right, so, look at this, a box. Thank you. So first, I'd like to say that it's an honor to be the recipient of the proclamation, and I am extremely appreciative of the mayor and the council for acknowledging and honoring February as Black History Month. I just had a meeting before I came tonight, ended about 4:30 in my classroom with members of my Black Student Union and my Latinx Club, and we were discussing, I was hoping some of them would show up tonight, but I guess maybe there's some sporting event or something on TV, I'm not sure. Or maybe they're working on my homework. But, so we were talking about Black History Month and the importance of Black History Month, and I had to admit to my students, to use their vernacular, every time Black History Month rolls around every year, it's got me feeling some kind of way. And that is because of the fact that although I understand and appreciate designating a month of the year to, as Ms. Dawson put it so eloquently, acknowledge and appreciate those who have gone before us to pave the way so that we do enjoy the diversity and the rich cultural, racial, religious, and ethnic diversity that we enjoy and celebrate here in Federal Way. But on the other hand, Black history is American history. And so that's why I have mixed feelings about that even being a thing, as the kids would say. So I am very appreciative of the City of Federal Way, and particularly the Federal Way School District, that is working very diligently to develop and implement an ethnic studies program for Federal Way School District to roll out in the 2021 school year, because I think it's very important to teach our young people that history is somewhat skewed when it comes to people of color because of the mainly European lens that our students are taught history through. So I'm appreciative of that, and I'm appreciative of the city and the city council members for acknowledging that and for encouraging our citizens as well, particularly our young people, to continue to celebrate and enjoy and appreciate the diversity of this community. The Federal Way School District is one of the most diverse in the state. The school where I teach, Federal Way High School, is the most diverse high school in the state and number 4 in the nation for diversity. So I'm very proud of that, and I'm very proud of the fact that our students celebrate and embrace and just really appreciate being able to attend school in a city and in a district like this. And as Mrs. Dawson put it so eloquently, again, I hope that we continue to just grow our appreciation and our desire to nurture that. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ash. Thank you, Ms. Ash. I do think actually Councilmember Moore wanted to say something, if you could maybe stay close. Councilmember Moore?
You know, I will say to the public that if you don't know who Pam Ash is, you certainly need to get to know this phenomenal woman. We are truly blessed to have you in our city. I've seen the light in you. I've seen the passion that you've hold so dearly. And I just really appreciate what you've done with our scholars, what you've done with our students and in our community to continue to ignite the ongoing continuous conversations that need to be had. So I just want to say I appreciate you, and I'm so glad you're here. My only regret is that you were never my teacher. And I know that your students are very close to your heart, and I know that just by observing that. And so I look forward to continuing to partner up and continuing to educate myself and also work with you to make our community a better place.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ash. All right. Okay, everybody. All right, now let's, now we've got the coronavirus. Oh, I also want to say, Councilmember Kopeng, thank you so much for popping right up and doing that. Thank you very much. It worked out. Appreciate it. All right, now we've got Ray Gross, our emergency manager, to talk about a coronavirus update. Ray.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members. I'm here tonight to give you information on the novel coronavirus. I'm going to discuss the background of the virus, the current situation, and then some preparedness and response actions that the city and the community are taking. So the 2019 novel coronavirus is in the family very similar to SARS and MERS and the common cold. Its transmission is through airborne droplets, so coughing and sneezing. It has a 2 to 14-day incubation period, of which the person can be contagious during that period of time without being symptomatic. Common symptoms are fever, shortness of breath, and coughing. So the big difference between the common cold or the flu and the coronavirus presently is if you have those symptoms and have not traveled to China or another country experiencing an outbreak, you probably just have the common cold or the flu. The current situation, the virus is currently in 24 countries. There are 20,630 confirmed cases. Of that, 426 have died. We have 11 cases in the United States. 9 of those 11 cases are from people that have traveled from China back to the United States. 2 of those cases are spouses of those travelers' close contact. Overall, in the United States, there's 167 assessed cases that have come back negative. So people under investigation, they've taken samples, sent those to the CDC, and they come back negative. There's still 82 pending. Here in King County, they've assessed 142 people that might have come in contact with the gentleman that came back and went through CTAC. Of that, there are 13 people under investigation. 12 of the 13 have come back negative, 1's still pending. There's 0 confirmed cases in King County. Some other pieces of information on the current situation. There are 20 airports in the United States that are going to receive flights from China and other infected countries. Of that, there's screening protocols for those people. And in the event that they have to be quarantined, which I believe most coming from China will be quarantined, they've identified 4 military bases in the country, Miramar, which is in California, Southern California, Travis Air Force Base, which is in Northern California, Fort Carson is in Colorado, and Lakeland Air Force Base in Texas. So a flight comes in, they get screened, and then sent to one of these military bases to be quarantined for up to 14 days. Some of the local and regional preparedness and response activities. Washington State Department of Health, as well as King County Public Health, have both been doing weekly webinar conference calls, of which they just go through the current situation as well as some future planning that they're considering. Of that, once I gather that information, I send that out to the mayor, city management team, and city staff. Right now, the best thing we can do is keep our decision makers informed. Some of the things that the mayor has authorized or directed me to do is currently inventorying our supplies. If I've identified additional need for supplies, I'm authorized to purchase those. Currently, the city departments are reviewing our continuity of operations, which kind of focuses on 2 major areas, depth of leadership, as well as identifying key essential functions of each department. That essential function, our staff in that department cross-train. In the event that we significantly get an outbreak, they estimate 1/3 of the workforce being out. So having cross-trained staff is important, as well as does that essential function have a manual backup process just in the event that the internet or the network, that sort of thing, becomes compromised. Some of the things that residents and individual citizens can do, probably right now the best thing is stay informed from a reliable and valid source, whether that's King County Public Health, Washington State Department of Health, the CDC, or the World Health Organization. I would highly recommend not watching the YouTube videos on the coronavirus. One of the things that has been established by the Washington Department of Health is they've set up a call center for the public to call. That number is 1-800-525-0127, and then press the pound key. That hotline is to answer any questions that's involving Washington State on the health perspective, how they're responding to it, as well as if a person has symptoms, they can call this line, and what they can do to better prepare themselves. So with that, that kind of concludes my presentation. There's still a couple of things we're still doing with this for community-wise. February 29th, plan on doing a community presentation, and it will cover all of this as well as additional rumors and that sort of thing that are out there. And we had an interview with the Federal Way Mirror earlier today. So the best thing we can do presently is review our plans, keep ourselves informed, as well as the community. With that, that concludes my presentation. I'll take any questions.
First of all, Ray, I'd like to say thank you very much for your work on this and for your participation regionally with those calls and updates. We will certainly let the public know. I see a couple lights going, Deputy Mayor, and then Councilmember Cephedos and Councilmember Tran.
Thank you very much. On February 29th, exactly what are you going to cover? Are you going to have someone from the Board of Health here, or?
Presently, it's just myself. I'm going to invite our community partners, South King Fire, Lake Haven, St. Francis, and Federal Way Public Schools. I'm going to invite them, whether they want to speak on their part of this. At present, Public Health, I believe they're setting up a team to do community relations, but I don't think that's established yet. And some of the topics, other than kind of what I covered here, but a little more depth, I'm going to really focus on the rumors that are out there, as well as where they can find reliable information from those 4 sources I mentioned earlier, as well as the biggest value of the community presentations are taking their questions straight from them.
Have you heard, or has the mayor heard, many concerns from Federal Way residents about this?
Ray, why don't you go first?
Oddly enough, I have not heard any concerns. Normally, something this heavy in the media, my voicemail is full every day. With this event, I've not heard any direct concerns from our community.
And I haven't received any emails or phone calls on it. I do appreciate this type of reach out. And just this evening, CNN reported that there are now 500 fatalities and essentially 20,000 cases out of China from the Wuhan area. So it's something that we're going to be very, very aggressive, keeping the public aware of. There are certain tipping points that we want to be very cognizant of. You're a nurse, so obviously you know that we want to make sure that everybody know everything that we know when we know it, and to keep that flow of information up.
I have one more question.
Yeah, please.
So when, let's say someone's getting off an airplane at SeaTac and they've been identified as someone that needs to be tested and quarantined, who's paying for the testing? Is that the government? Not
At
every.
present, yes, I have not heard or seen anything cost-wise being put on the burden of the potential infected person. I haven't heard anything financially being put on the individual.
Okay.
Right now, it's being absorbed by the government.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, Councilmember Cepheus, and then Councilmember Tran.
One, if you could repeat the phone number, and then what time on the 29th and where?
Okay, so the Washington State Department of Health call center line is 1-800-525-0127, then press the pound. And then for the presentation, it's February 29th, 9 a.m. to around 11:30 here at City Hall and Council Chambers.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Kochmar.
Thank you. Ray, in your presentation on the 29th, if there is a pandemic, would you be making any discussion on what happens with the city if we have to shut it down?
I will make some general reference to that. We will obviously take our cues from King County Public Health, the health officer. A lot of those decisions the mayor will be involved in before social distancing or anything along those lines are made. But I would not, during the presentation, I'm not going to cover specifics because there are none presently.
Sure. Is there any, last question, is there any estimation of how long this virus will last?
Unfortunately, it being a new virus, there's a lot of unknowns. I want to say just recently they determined kind of its reproductive number. But other than that, they don't know how long it's going to last or if it's going to, since it's a virus, it can shift and drift. And now that it's in humans, it will probably have at least one shift. But presently, they do not know how long it's going to be or how long, once you get it, how long you still have it. The gentleman that came through SeaTac, they released him today. They're still asking him to self-quarantine, so he's been in the hospital since January 7th, released today. They're still asking him to self-quarantine, as well as they have daily contact with him. So there's still a lot of unknowns about this. And, until the World Health Organization gets further into China, it's probably going to still remain somewhat of a mystery.
I do want to say that we do have contagion protocols. We do have a emergency planning for, if it gets, if certain triggers are met. So I do want to say that these are the kinds of things that we plan on and plan for, in case it gets to that level. So we don't need to get into all that now. We're not nowhere near that, but
Correct.
there's a lot of planning at the local and regional level. Councilmember Tran, did you have something?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Ray, for this information. I just want to share my observation between the month of November and January at the different airports. So in November, my wife and I spent almost a month in Asia, and we visited 6 different countries. Things was completely normal at that time, and we came back fine. So last week, well, a week ago, we went to Fiji, and when we came back, we have to clear immigration at San Francisco airport, and I can see totally different scene. They have what they call thermal camera throughout the airport, especially the area that arrival area. The camera basically detect body temperature. So if you have a fever or you have an elevated temperature, they will identify you, and then the nurse will and the immigrant officer will come to you and invite you to a different area. In fact, when my wife and I was waiting to be interviewed for the global entry program, we actually saw a nurse come out and identify one person and took that person to a private room. So they take this very, very serious.
Yeah.
Just want to share that.
As do we. And so we'll keep these updates going. If we have any other updates, we will get the word out if there's anything localized. So, Ray, thank you very much for your work on this.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, now, with regard to Mayor's Emerging Issues and Report, we had a great city council retreat. I'm sure you're going to hear from the council during their reports this past Saturday on February 1st at Dumas Bay. A lot of great work was done and some strategic planning in regard to goals. And so I think it was a very productive session. I very much thank our staff that was there, that dedicated their time, our facilitator, Andrew Ballard, and most notably our council members who really rolled up their sleeves and worked together and really did get a lot accomplished. So that was very productive. My State of the City address is scheduled for February 27th. That's a Thursday. That's February 27th, a Thursday, at 6 p.m. at the Performing Arts and Event Center. And I certainly hope you can make that. We're going to be talking about just the exciting things going on currently and with a look to the future as well, of course. And then we've got a report on something very exciting happening here at City Hall regarding King County elections. And so I've asked Bill to very briefly talk about a partnership that we're working on with King County Elections on 3 separate, well, I'm not going to give you a presentation, Bill, that's what you're for. So Bill Badino, our policy analyst at large. Sir?
Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of council, I'm looking for my presentation, which I can't seem to find up here on the, on here. So there we are, good, we're good. So we were, and the mayor will chime in here too, King County Elections Director Julie Wise approached us about an initiative that they're doing with cities that are over a 100,000 population in King County. So I want to let you know officially that before the census, King County Elections has deemed us over 100,000 people.
Or close enough for horseshoes.
Close enough for horseshoes, well, exactly. So they're putting in what you see here is a Federal Way Vote Center in Seattle, Renton, Kent, Bellevue, Federal Way, and then Kenmore to cover the northern cities over Lake Washington. And what that comprises of is the fact that they want to have a place in the 8 days before the election, same-day registration. And now you can register right up to 8 p.m. of Election Day. It'll enable you to once again vote in person, and they will also have accessible voting booths for those, who may need some assistance. There'll be the ability for replacement ballots. You can return your ballots, And then, of course, a Vedino family favorite is getting our signatures matched, because sometimes they don't match what's on the record. So you'll be able to have that service as well, too. So what we did was, we scoured, thanks to our Parks Department, all over the city, trying to figure out how we could have enough space for these time periods, you know, the 8 days before March 10, April 4, and the November 3 election. And through the generosity of the chief, he has said, we can use the Patrick Marr Room, which is the exact same size, for these services.
They needed 6,000 square feet, and to know about our city hall, it's pretty tight, and we utilize a lot of our space, and so we very much appreciate that sacrifice, Chief, for those 3 weeks. And 6,000 square feet was a bit of an ask, but obviously for a vitally important task.
Exactly. And the days and times, this is very important, is they'll be available Monday through Friday before the election from 10 to 6, Saturday from 10 to 4, Monday 10 to 6, and Election Day until the polls close. And so we've got that already scheduled. We'll be working with the chief to make sure that the doors are open. We will have staff here, and we will make this work. And then just so you can see the immense impact, these are basically the hours for those 3 key election days. So I think it's a great initiative. I appreciate it. We really scoured the place to find the spot, and it's great that we have the police area. So this is just another great thing for us to do. So any questions?
Bill, let's make sure we put this on the website as
Exactly.
as one of the major scrolls. And Deputy Mayor Honda.
So this is exciting. So that means we can vote in person? We don't have to?
Correct.
That's really exciting. We used to always take our scouts, our Girl Scouts and Cub Scouts, to the polling places so we could talk about voting and how important it is and what a privilege it is to vote. And I'm excited that young people can actually see voting in process. I miss the voting in person.
As do I. As do I.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. I know, I used to always vote at Sherwood Forest Elementary, and then our son ended up going there, and made me sort of miss the days where you could do that in person. Councilmember Moore?
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Bill, so there'll be a staff person there, as I understand.
As you saw from the photos, those are what they usually have staffing their center, but yes, they will have staff members there.
From the
taking care
King
of all
County
these, from the
elections.
King County elections, the King
Okay,
County
good.
elections employee operation.
So voters will be able to come in there. It'll be just King County election staff members, and that's it.
And voters, yes.
And voters, exactly.
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Welcome.
Right, very exciting. Yeah, we've got a great King County Elections Director, Julie Wise, and we're very happy that we could accommodate that. So, Bill, thank you for your work on this. We're going to put this on the website, and this is at the cornerstone of our democracy. Everything else votes, everything else flows from the right to be able to vote, and so I think this is a very exciting endeavor. So, thank you very much. Okay, then, boy, I really need. I made a visit to the Fusion Housing, soon to be open, at the former Econo Lodge that has now been purchased with both King County money and state money for the Fusion Housing, transitional housing, that's going to be, I think, open as soon as perhaps even July of this year. I'm sure that we had a great opportunity to tour the facility, talk with Robin O'Grady, their great new executive director. Very exciting development at that location. And I think we'll see some requests forthcoming from Fusion that I can explain at perhaps not at this time, but down the road. I think this is exactly what we were looking for in regard to services for the needy in our community. And very thankful for the state legislature in King County to help make that capital facility a reality, and certainly for Fusion and their leadership getting that accomplished. And looks like it's well on the way, and I think the facility is, or that location is going to be much better served by this use. So it was exciting. Okay, that is my report. Let's now turn to council committee reports. First, we've got Finance and Economic Development. Councilmember Tran.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I give my report, I wanted to thank Councilmember Kochmar for facilitating the meeting while I was 6,000 miles away. And I want to thank Jerry Lynn and Brian, IT staff, who set up the WebEx for me so that I can join the meeting. So I really appreciate that. So the FedEx meeting dates going to be changed. It's going to be fourth Tuesday of every month. It is now at 5 p.m. instead of 4:30. Jail activity update. January was the first month out of the score. Our ADP, also known as average daily population, is very good and below what we was budgeted. The school district impact fee study, Department of Community Development is working on it, and because of the changes in staff and workload, they have not attended to this yet, but they will update us next month. The salary study, Cabot Dow and Associate was hired last year to conduct compensation and workload study, and they met with city management last year, July, and scheduled to meet with the management team again. I think that they already met, right? January 28th?
That's right.
Okay. To review their progress. We will get another update in March. Chamber of Commerce, Ms. Becca Martin presented the Chamber Economic Growth Report, providing statistical report on housing, household income, home value, jobs, employment information, and it is very good report, and I have it right here. The next FedRex meeting is going to be on February 25th at 5 p.m. in the Hannibal Room.
Great.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Mayor.
Thank you very much. Okay, Lodging Tax Advisory Committee, Councilmember Seppa Dawson.
Feels kind of different that I'm reporting on this, right? I attended my first meeting last month, and it was really good. The conversation is really around making Federal Way a robust tourism center, or to make sure that we have people coming into our community and spending their money here. So we do really need your help to invite your friends to come here to restaurants and to the Performing Arts Center and be a part of making Federal Way a great place to hang out. That said, the men and women's trials, what is it, for swim meet, is going to be here in February and March. So February 26th through the 29th is the women's competition, and then March 4th through the 7th is the men's competition. And volunteers are needed, so if you could let Tim know when you're available for those meets would be great. And our next meeting is going to be on March 12th at 10 a.m. at the PAC. And with that, I end my report.
Okay. Land Use and Transportation Committee, Councilmember Kopang.
Thank you, Mayor. We had a good meeting last night, and we will be moving a number of things forward to both the consent and a business agenda for the next council meeting. A few things that we talked about. One was the Federal Way Link Extension Station naming. You know it's coming when we want to put a name to it. So that's exciting, and certainly looking forward to having a discussion about that at the next council meeting. We also, another thing that's coming is small cell wireless, or 5G. We have an agreement with Verizon that it will become an ordinance if it's approved by the council, and we would have first reading at the next meeting. Obviously, a number of cell companies will be bringing in agreements along this line, but again, it's a very common agreement in that it's customary based on our experience with the cell phone providers. One last thing I want to talk about that we discussed was the Lake Haven Water and Sewer District interlocal agreement. When we have roads torn up, it's always good to be able to get as much work done as possible. And we had basically, we were doing every project on a project-by-project basis. And what we've, in the continuing efforts of both community development and public works to find ways to streamline processes and maximize the value of the dollars that we receive through the taxpayer funding, we looked at, they discovered an opportunity to create a better partnership, first of all, with the with the water and sewer utility, but also to streamline the process of being able to do projects together. And in doing so, basically be able to cut at least 40 hours in administrative work to get an agreement together for each project, and also allow us to take advantage of opportunities when they come up. Recently, there was a project that Lake Haven had done, and in the process of doing their project, they noticed that there was pipes that were damaged that the city was responsible for. Well, the city unfortunately could not execute an agreement fast enough to be able to get that repair done while the road was open, so it had to be opened again. So again, this is one of those things that we are continuing to look at ways to work together, but also to create more streamlined processes to make things easier for everyone, both utilities and ratepayers, so, and taxpayers. So anyway, thank you, and that concludes. Next report, next next Land Use Transportation Committee meeting will be March 2nd at 5 o'clock right here in council chambers, and look forward to seeing those of you that want to come.
All right, next, we've got Parks, Recreation, Human Services, Public Safety Committee, Councilmember Coachmore.
Thank you very much, Mayor Farrell. Although I chaired the FEDEREC meeting and I've attended the land use meeting, I have not yet had my Parks, Human Services, and Public Safety Committee meeting yet. That will be held on February the 11th at 5 p.m. The Parks Commissioners did meet, and their newly elected chair, Laura Belvin, resigned because she's going to be the new commissioner for Federal Water and Sewer, and I think she'll be an excellent addition to the Water Sewer Commission. The commission apparently discussed their master work plan, and that will come to, the way the system works, first you have your commission meeting, and then the information that comes from the Citizens Commission meeting then goes to the committee meeting, of which there are 3 council members, and from there, the action goes to the is recommended to the council as a whole. And so some of those items will be moved forward. What's going to be on the agenda for February 11th for the Parks, Human Services, and Public Safety Committee meeting with the 3 council members will be the DSHS respite care, 2020 Parks and Recreation Commission work plan, which I just mentioned. For field turf, we're going to accept a retain each for one of the fields in Federal Way. And then we're going to get a report on crime statistics and jail services from Chief Andy Wong. And we're going to talk about agreements with the Federal Way Youth Action Team and Phenomenal She for after-school programming, as well as an agreement with El Centro de la Raza for after-school programming. And then one of the things we're going to be discussing quite a bit, I think, in the next year is going to be funding, because our parks need a lot of work, and we have a real need for maintenance folks for our parks. By the way, on the commission, they will be accepting applications for the Parks Commission until February 18th, when they will be having interviews. I'm not sure when it closes for accepting applications, but the interviews for the Parks Commission new members will be held February 18th. And that's my report with regard to the parks, but I'll have more later on our retreat and some other outside activities.
Very good. Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Moore for the Public Issues Committee.
Thank you so much. Before I start that, Madam Chair, I know that Don Coggins is the new chair of the Parks Commission, which I'm really excited about, and I'm really looking forward to learning more about the Phenomenal She and Game of Life. Really excited about this. I am the new member for the Regional Committee meeting, PIC, that one of every city in King County goes to meet with all the regional leaders, and we help just play a role in regional government, and we do lobby the state in some cases, and I believe Lydia Safadasan Councilmember Safadasan is my alternate, which I'm excited. The roles have been flipped a little bit, so I'm looking forward to working with her, learning from her on this. But the next meeting is going to be February 12th at 6 p.m. There's a pre-pick meeting, which I have no idea what that is, which I'm assuming is a study session. And then 7 p.m. Starts the actual PIC meeting. So I'll look forward to reporting back at the next council meeting on what was discussed and seeing how I can be an effective voice for Federal Way at the regional level. I'm also going to be meeting with Deanna Dawson, who's the Executive Director of Sound Cities Association. So looking forward to learning from her as well. So with that, I will end my report. Thank you.
Okay. And speaking about Sound Cities Association, we are gathering the mayors and the police chiefs of South King County to sit down with our King County prosecutor to talk about filing and disposition standards and about certain concerns that South King County has had with South King County police and mayors have had and councils as well in regard to the filing of cases or the lack thereof at the King County Prosecutor's Office. And so it's something that they've asked me to chair, and I'll be leading that delegation and sitting down with Dan Satterberg. I think that meeting is now set for February 24th. With that, let's hear from the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. So our annual retreat was last weekend, and I would like to thank our staff for being there and giving us reports on the future. We were planning for 2030, it was Vision 2030, because in 2030, our second light rail station will be opening. And Federal Way will look a lot different than it looks today. And so staff talked to us about their needs and what they see in the future and what council should be working on. We developed a new vision statement, which is as a fast-growing tech hub, Federal Way offers an ideal location for families and businesses. And that's looking at 10 years. And I have no doubt that we will achieve this vision statement. We also established 5 goals. 1 is to establish sustainable revenue streams. 2 is to address public safety for families and businesses and residents. 3 is the city government will develop a plan to become the tech hub. 4 is to address homelessness issues, which also includes drug addiction and mental health issues. And 5 is to keep Sound Transit, OMF, out of the city of Federal Way and have it sited at the landfill in Kent, which is where it truly belongs. And those were all assigned to a committee, staff. City council members can work on any issue that they desire, even if they're not on that committee. And I'm looking forward to this year. I think we have a lot of work to do, and I know that this council can achieve that. I'd also like to talk a little bit about our empty seat. It seems so weird to have an empty seat here. I'd like to thank now Representative Jesse Johnson for his service to the city and to the city council for the last 2 years, and wish him luck in the state legislature. And as the mayor indicated, applications for the city council position are now online. If you need a paper copy or you need help in filling it out and you want to come to City Hall, please do that. The city clerk will be glad to help you with that. And I've heard rumors that the person's already been chosen, and this happened last time. We don't know who's applying. We won't know who's applying until 4 o'clock on February 14th when the applications are due. No one's been selected yet. Everyone has a chance. If you've lived in Federal Way for 12 consecutive months, you're a registered voter, you can apply. And the more that apply, the better. It's an awesome opportunity if you want to be on the city council. And I would encourage you to apply. If you have any questions, you can contact me. I'd be glad to help you so that you can understand what the role of the council is. It's not what some people might think, that it's different than what we can actually do, but I would encourage you to ask questions. If you have any questions, I'm here to help, and I just encourage you to apply. So thank you very much.
Here, here. Well said. Councilmember Kochmar.
Yes, and I just want to let you know that I have been contacted a number of times, I'm sure as many of us have, and I really believe in the fact that our council needs to be impartial. And so I regularly try not to talk to people unless they have a specific question that they want to ask. Other than that, I don't want them to think that I'm leaning one way or the other. I really think that we're going to be sitting almost kind of like in a hiring process or in a judicial process. It's kind of like quasi-judicial. And I just think that we need to maintain impartiality, be as neutral as possible, and everybody has an equal chance, absolutely. And so, and thank you. We're getting some really wonderful applicants that I can tell so far, so keep it up.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, and now for the most important part of the evening, citizen comment. I'll call out a couple of names, and please be ready to go. First, we'll have Dana Holloway, and then Jocelyn Thomas, and Tony, hold on, I gotta put my glasses on. Jocelyn Thomas, Tony Porter, Craig Patrick, Susan Musolino, Anna Patrick, Gary Grant, Cy Simonelli. I got your name right this time, Cy, because I had my glasses on. Lynn Idahosa Berry. And if anybody else would like to speak before the council, please turn in a pink sheet. And with that, we'll start with Ms. Holloway. Dana.
Good evening. My name is Dana Holloway, and for the benefit of the audience, the people viewing from home, I'm going to repeat the public comments I gave at the February 1st City Council retreat. I would like to tell you my top 5 priorities for the city and what I think the city should focus on. Number 1, a sustainable revenue stream to fully fund the city budget, set aside savings to fund the maintenance of buildings and vehicles, and to fund required new facilities and buildings, and pay off city debt. Without sufficient revenue, the city cannot provide even the basic essential services and preventative maintenance required to run the city, which includes our roads, parks, street meridians, etc. This was the number 1 top priority that the City Council had identified at the 2018 retreat 2 years ago. Number 2, a fully funded and fully staffed City Hall. Provide the funding every department needs for staffing and equipment. This includes ensuring the police department has the officers and the resources to do their job to address crime and public safety. Complete a wage and workload study and implement a plan to have all employees' wages and benefits competitive with surrounding cities. That also was identified in the 2018 retreat. Number 3, increase and maintain police officer ratio of 1.5 or higher to 1,000 residents. 4, address the drug addict vagrants who create unsanitary and biohazard conditions and encampments and are responsible for crime to fund their addiction. 5, support actions to address the noise and toxic emissions caused by SeaTac Airport that impact our quality of life, property values, and health. That's 5 of my top priorities for the city. However, none of these can be done unless first we do number 1, a sustainable revenue stream. Thank you.
Thanks, Dana. Jocelyn Thomas. Or is it Joycelyn?
It's Joycelyn.
Sorry,
Thank you.
All right.
So I started my address to the council and to those that are watching several times because I knew I had 3 minutes and I love to talk. But I decided to just speak from my heart with just a few bullet points. I am a nurse practitioner that works at one of the local family practice clinics. And I have recently moved back to the Federal Way area due to my work. I grew up in Federal Way. I am not 22, I'm 53. And I grew up here. I went to junior high and high school. And one of the things that has been so disturbing to me is the gun violence. We know that gun violence is at the top of the media right now. It is at the top of political conversations. But there doesn't seem to be anything being done whatsoever. And over this last 4 months, I have been touched, actually 5 months, I've been touched by gun violence in so many ways. Professionally, I have been touched by gun violence with one of my patient's daughters. In my community, my church, someone killed here in Federal Way was one of our church members, my church family. And personally, one of the victims that died recently from gun violence was the son of a very longtime friend of mine. Over half of victims are under 25 years of age. 2/3 of those victims of gun violence are people of color, and the majority are male. This is including non-fatal and fatal shootings. And what I'm saying is that politics isn't helping. This is a public health problem. We have an epidemic, it's spreading, and it's a crisis. And I am begging for the city of Federal Way to take some action, to come to the forefront. If you are acting, we want to see it. We want it to be transparent so that we know and can feel comfortable that you are working on our behalf with regards to this epidemic. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Porter.
Sorry, I'm extremely nervous. My name is Tony Porter, and I came here today just to tell my story. I've been here pretty much my whole life. Federal Way has been my whole life. My daughter recently was a victim of gun violence back in October. I heard you, Jim, bring up how that you guys are going to be working with the police and the prosecutors. Basically, we've been let down. We've been completely let down. The person that shot my daughter is going to be released in just a few months, not being charged with anything but a drive-by shooting. 10 to 15 months he gets, and he's already served half that time. I guess my biggest thing is we've lost a lot of friends and family due to the gun violence out here. We've made, as a family, numerous reports to police and just felt that they were being ignored. Then becoming, I know it's further that the prosecutors are the ones that take the further action. I would really appreciate for the community, for anybody that can, to get with the prosecutors as well to make sure that these people that are committing these crimes are charged what they deserve to be charged for. I don't know what else to really say. Just that Federal Way has been my home. We did have to move, so we're no longer out here, which I love Federal Way. But I hope that it can get better, basically. So, thank you.
Thank you, Tony. I'm sorry about what happened with your daughter. Craig Patrick.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, City Council members. I would like to congratulate the current members of the council on their election. I look forward to working with you in the future. I thank the City Council for opening up the retreat to the public so we can go and be a part of that and put our comments in. I would like to acknowledge Mayor Farrell for his leadership and professionalism on securing the flagpole for the entire Federal Way community. Without his persistence, I don't think it would have been possible to celebrate our diversity of cultures. I want to thank Mayor Farrell for securing the flagpole. Well done. Thank you, Mayor. I would like to discuss Proposition 1. Proposition 1 was for retail cannabis shops here in Federal Way. This has been voted on twice in the last 4 years. And a month later, Washington State University put out a article in the Seattle Times about how cannabis shops are relegated to poor neighborhoods. Poor neighborhoods. Now, I don't think Federal Way is a poor neighborhood. However, Proposition 1 was sponsored by the leadership of the 30th District Democrats. Not once, but twice. I don't understand why a political organization wants to facilitate a store or a retail organization that's deemed as low income. I think we're better than this. I don't know what to say. I don't understand why they're putting this in Federal Way or what the issue is with it or how come there can't be a reasonable discussion about it, but it seems to be an agenda-driven issue to some point. And I think that the voters that voted against the cannabis retail shops deserve to be heard, and that I think, that being it's been voted on twice in the last 4 years, I would like to request the mayor, deputy mayor, and the city council to adopt a memorandum or moratorium on cannabis retail for the next 10 years. I think you owe that to the voters who voted on that twice, not to bring this into our community. I don't believe we're a low-income community. I think having a cannabis shop in Federal Way sends a message that we are low income. You could feel free to take a look at this article if you'd like. Thank you for your time.
All right. Susan Musolino. Susan, did I pronounce that correctly? Okay, thank you.
You got the Susan right.
I did. I got the Susan right. Okay. That's okay. Thank you. Thanks.
My name is Susan Mussolino. I live in Federal Way. I am here to speak for the helpless. There is a Rottweiler puppy mill in Federal Way. The owner, Anthony Chargola, 1923 South 375th Street, Federal Way, has 2 females, 1 male, and turns out litter after litter. I have rescued and placed wild and domestic animals for 50 years now, and this is the most difficult rescue so far because all the people in the neighborhood are afraid of Anthony Chargola, the breeder.
Susan, hold on. Actually, hold on. Oh, can you stop the time? Susan, let's not, Susan, I'm right here. Right here, Susan. Right here, Susan, up here. Sorry, I know. This voice seems to come from, exactly. So let's not talk about individuals, and let's just talk about if there's a, so maybe just talk generally to the council about the particular issue, but let's leave identities out.
Okay.
I think it gets old.
Okay.
It's not in line with our council rules. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Let's maybe, how much time do we have left, or does she have left? 2:16. Let's just start the 3 minutes again. Let's just start over again. Okay, Susan?
The way I found out about this is one of the female Rottweilers escaped, attacked my friend walking her leashed 13-year-old beagle down the street, grabbed the beagle from her arms, and killed the beagle right in front of her. She has been so traumatized by this she can barely go on and has almost lost the sight in her eye. 4 police cars and animal control came and got the dog and is waiting to be put down. The animal control went to see the conditions of the puppy mill. Horrendous conditions. 3 small cage runs with no dog houses, no roof or shelter from the rain, snow 24/7. Freezing mud with a ½ a foot of dog poop on every inch of the run. Neighbors complain they can smell the stench inside their house. Animal control told the breeder to give the dogs shelter. Breeder put up a few pieces of rusty tin, cleaned up the poop, and put a teeny doghouse in one run that the Rottweilers cannot even get in, and a dog carrying case in the other one with holes all in it. Dogs and puppies are right on the mud feces. Still no shelter, dogs suffering and freezing. Washington State Legislature law says housing and facilities for dogs must enable all dogs to remain dry and clean, shelter from extreme temperatures that are uncomfortable or hazardous to dogs. Floors must protect dogs' feet from injury. Owner of an animal is guilty of animal cruelty in the 2nd degree if he fails to provide the animals with necessary shelter, rest, sanitation, space, or medical attention, and the animal suffers physical pain as a result. Federal Way Animal Control has been called by numerous people in the neighborhood, but am I not supposed to say the animal control officer's name?
We've got it here. Let's,
Okay, animal control officer said she has done enough and that she is injured and that cannot get out in the field for 1 month. Right this very minute, those poor dogs are getting rained on, they're caged, they're standing in the freezing mud, not able to get out of it, with no shelter. Mayor, city council, people of Federal Way, what can we do about this? My next step is Como and King News.
all right. All right, Susan, thank you very much for coming today. We've got the Deputy Chief of Police, Kyle Sumter, right here. I'm going to ask him to talk with you. I understand that, I think we received an email earlier today that perhaps you were going to be coming. I don't know. I thought that perhaps we have received some.
I didn't email, but I called.
Oh, I see. Okay. I got some sort of indication that perhaps a concern of this nature would be raised. So I think our police personnel will take this information and we'll get a report back to you about our next steps.
Can I talk to you after it's all over, too?
Well, I'll be here a while, but I'm always available to talk.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
All right,
Listening.
Councilmember
Thank you.
Korchmar?
Since this concerns public safety and that is my committee, I would like a report back to my committee as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, Chief and Deputy Chief, can we make sure we do that? All right, thank you very much. All right, thank you, Susan. All right, and Susan, if it gets too late this evening, I'm always at my office, and we can always just either call, email, or stop by. And
Nothing's too late.
yeah, okay, all right, thank you very much. Okay, Anna Patrick. And then Gary Grant, and then Cy, and then Lynn.
Evening, Mayor and Council and public. So with this new position opening up, I just want to request that the council be mindful of selecting someone who can take the time to listen to the public, take the time to understand the public and not make assumptions about the public. I guess that was the point I was trying to make last time, is when I was expressing my concerns about my neighborhood in my diverse community with other neighbors who also had the same concerns, the knee-jerk reaction by some was to just call me names and discount my concerns. And they don't really truly know anything about the situation or the person talking when that's what they do. They don't gather the information. So it seems to me that there's some divisiveness that's going on in our community, and I don't think it's productive. And I also think that there's some really extreme agendas that are being pushed in our community that I'm very concerned about. So I think we all need to come together and compromise and work together and try to understand each other's needs. And basically just work together, and we need somebody that can do that, that can try to understand everybody's concerns, gather the information. So I guess that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Mr. Gary Grant.
Good evening again. 30 days ago, I brought a situation to the council concerning the no parking signs that went up to accommodate waste management. I have not received anything concerning that. I asked for a reply, haven't heard a word. Yet, after the last council meeting, that Friday, they put up signs in the cul-de-sac. Now, I had brought up concerns about the sign that they had planned to put 2 feet away from my driveway. I was assured that that sign wasn't going to go there. Had I not been home, there would be a sign in front of my house. Now, there's a disconnect with some people who do not understand how other operations work. When I spoke to someone at Parks and Works, I was told that, well, if they put up the sign, we'll take it down. That's not how it works. Once the sign goes up, you go through the process that you went through to put the sign up. So it would have been there. Thanks to the employee who was putting the signs up, who waited for me to call in and have someone from the city call and verify that that sign wasn't supposed to be there, I'd have been stuck. I was asked last meeting why I wanted something in writing, because that worker and his supervisor asked me if I had something from the city that stated that that wasn't going to happen. Didn't have it. Communication with the citizens in this city are very lacking. And it seems like when there is a complaint, there's no follow-up, or the follow-up is so slow that it just ticks people off. Now, it's been brought to my attention that a lot of you don't like the way I say things. My personal, I get frustrated because you don't do anything. To sum it all up, I, again, have spent years with this particular situation. I have spent time with other issues in this city, and it is very frustrating when you don't get a decent response in a decent time. When am I going to get my response?
Mr. Grant, I'm going to turn it over to E.J. Walsh here in just a moment, and you'll have your answer here in a moment. But we work for you. I just want to say that. And so thank you very much for coming back. E.J., can you...
Yeah, so a response letter went out last week to you in writing to your mail address as you requested. I have a copy of it here tonight if you would like another copy of it, but it was mailed out last week to you.
Okay, I haven't received it yet, so.
We put it in the U.S. mail, so I can't explain the mail process to you, but there's a copy I'm happy to share with you here tonight.
Okay.
All right. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Grant. All right, Cy Semenini. Is that it?
Yes, yes.
All right.
It's every vowel but you, so definitely understandable.
I got it. All right.
Hi. I hope you all are having a good evening. I can definitely see some pre-dinner time drag. I just wanted to do a 2-week check-in post you all meeting at Dumas Bay to see if any funding decisions had been made or been discussed in terms of ensuring the safety of our young people. It's unfortunate that the two ladies who spoke about gun violence and youth who are unsheltered being at risk of that within our community, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts on Vision 2020 in terms of meeting strategic goals 2 and 4 for this 10-year plan that you created, and whether it's youth who are at risk of violence or underlying root causes such as unreliable filing acceptance standards by the PAO. At the end of the day, we can take local measures and steps to ensure the safety of our young people.
Okay. It's not really the forum to do that right now. This opportunity is for you to tell us what your thoughts are. So we're not really geared toward giving you a full response back, other than we hear you. And if you want to hear about Vision 2020, I would encourage you to come to the State of the City on February 27th. Yes, Councilmember Moore. But Councilmember Moore, we don't. It's not appropriate in a council meeting to get in a back forth in regard to citizen comment.
Oh, but if I can just make this comment, that'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you. So this is good time for you to come up and start lobbying the council for this, because this is the year where we begin the process to do our budget for the next 2 years. So I encourage you to keep coming back, meet with us if you'd like. This is the budget year where we set it up for the next 2 years, and that's a perfect time to discuss it. So thank you.
And I apologize. I didn't mean for that to be like a back and forth. This isn't an argument. This is like a collaboration. So you're appreciated. We are grateful for the work that you do. And like the words behind centered on opportunity, we're confident that you can make opportunity available to all of us, even the littlest of us.
Thank you, Sai, and we're grateful that you came tonight, and we're, and we want to make sure that we follow through, but nothing to say sorry about. So thank you very much for coming, and keep coming.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, Lynn Idahosa-Berry.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. Save the best for last. A few months ago, and to be honest, this conversation has happened several times over the past 2 or 3 years, but most recently at breakfast with the council, the homeless count was brought up and the various reasons for inaccuracies. In the past, I had suggested a coordination with DSHS and comparing the data that they have for the homeless in Federal Way. Simply sleeping outside is not the definition of homelessness. It includes so much more, including couch surfing. I believe that having, and as we could prepare to consider 2021 and 2022 budget priorities, I believe that having that data is crucial. Fusion opening is a great addition to our city, but it's still not enough. And if we're looking at 2030, we're going to need much more than one Fusion facility at that time. And we need to start building that soon or it won't be available. So we can better address citizens' needs. Over the weekend, the council held a retreat with the, and with the help of Councilmember Moore, committee meetings have been aired and on the YouTube page, and I was really sad to see that that didn't happen with that meeting. And I've heard that there's rumors that it will be edited when it is published, but I'd like to request that that doesn't happen and that the full meeting is released to the public where we can easily access it either via Facebook, YouTube, or Channel 21. I think it's really important that we have a chance to see the comments that were given by citizens, the comments by council members, and how that work process was brought together. I'm really excited to hear about Vision 2030, especially about this tech hub. That's kind of new to me. We're not really in that era right now, but it would be nice to see us go to a more profitable businesses in our community in that way. And we can keep talking about youth violence prevention until we are blue in the face, but until we fully invest into it, we're not going to see much change. 13,000 for 2020 was, a great start, and 25,000 next year will be even better. But we've got to figure out more strategic ways to partner with our allies, especially our allies that are partnered directly in the schools and work directly with the at-risk youth to create those changes. And I think that the Federal Wave Action Team is going to do great with the resources that you've initially started, and I can't wait to see more. Lastly is a little bit of a bummer regarding the permitting process. I'm a little disappointed to see the back and forth in the media. It's just really not appropriate, and I think we have better things to do with our time than to battle with the superintendent and the mayor of a city. There was obviously, regardless, some errors there, and we should just move forward together and not separately, because the bashing is petty and it's just not working. So I'll end there.
All right, thank you. Allison Taylor.
Mayor Farrow, Deputy Mayor, Council. I just want to start off by saying that I think that this weekend was somewhat productive. I think that there could have been more done, some more work done. I'm not sure why we need a vision statement redone every year, which is, I think, the way that it's been done recently, the way I understood it. But I do appreciate, like I said on Saturday, being part of the process. What I did not appreciate was being personally attacked during public comment, as I also was tonight. I think that, Jim, you always say this is the best part of the evening for you. I think you need to pay better attention. I think when you can use someone's specific title, like if I said, I don't like the mayor of Federal Way, they know who that is. So when we're talking about the leadership and the chair specifically of the 30th District Democrats, they know who that is. You also just let another public commenter give someone's address out on during public comment, and it took you a few seconds to catch up to that. So I know that it's live. I hope that we can edit that out, because I don't care how awful that neighbor is. That's completely inappropriate. I hope that you recognize when people come up here and insult you to your face, because I think that veiled insults about like the flag are inappropriate and disrespectful to your office and to this dais. I think that the sarcastic comments used to harm other community members are frustrating. I think that if we want to be a cohesive community, we have to work together, and I think that all of us could do better. I also think that Lynn just brought up the unedited version of the video. I know that you said it will be up on YouTube. If it is edited, I have already put in a public records request to get the full unedited videos, so I will make sure you get that when I get that. But I do think that we need to be transparent. There were some things I heard this weekend from one council member specifically that I was absolutely offended by and rather disgusted, and I will be addressing that in an email separately. I think that we have no room on this council for bigotry and hate, and I think that we need to do better and we need to be responsible to each other, and I hope that we can do better in the future. I also think just to clear up for the record, for those who are watching at home, because lots of people do watch us at home, Proposition 1 was not supported by the Democrats. It was not brought on by the Democrats in Federal Way. It was, I asked for it to be on the council put it on the ballot, and in 2015, I've checked with my mentor, the prior chair, and they did not support it either. So I just want to clear that up since we're talking publicly about things that we don't have facts on. I wanted to provide some facts. So I look forward to the process of choosing a new council member, and I hope you choose very wisely. Thanks.
Thank you, Allison. Okay, I love democracy. You know, it's great to hear all the different perspectives, and thank you everybody for approaching this in a civil manner. It's good to hear from everybody. All right, now we move on to the consent agenda. Is there anybody else who'd like to talk? Okay. Let's now move on to the consent agenda. These items have gone through committee, and they could be passed in one motion. I got some sort of note that there was an issue with regard to letter G on the consent agenda. Can you explain what the potential issue is?
Yes, the financial report for December that was presented at FEDRAG is preliminary December. So another December report will be presented this month. So I just want to make sure that the council and the public understand the difference. So this December one that is on the agenda, consent agenda, is preliminary December report. So it's now final report.
Okay. Do we need to have a motion to do that, or is that just a Scribner's issue?
I think we can call that a Scribner's error. We'll just add it to the minutes, to the agenda.
Okay, great.
It was in the committee title. It just didn't get put on this agenda, the proper title.
All right, thank you. All right, council, I ask, is there a council member that would want to pull an individual item for separate consideration? All right, hearing none, Deputy Mayor Honda, do you have a motion with respect to A through H?
I move approval of items A through H on the consent agenda.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, they pass unanimously. Council business, transportation grant funding applications. Staff report from Rick Perez, City Traffic Engineer.
Thank you and good evening. So we're in the position of asking for some money to help build some projects. So should the City Council authorize the submittal of grant applications for transportation projects? So we've got some deadlines looming. The State Department of Transportation City Safety Grant applications are due March 6th, which is why we're here tonight. Puget Sound Regional Council regional grant applications are due for submittal, and it's a kind of a long, convoluted process. The South County Area Transportation Board Technical Advisory Committee has to narrow it down to 5, which would then get approved by Skate Board as a whole before it goes to the King County Project Evaluation Committee, and then finally the Regional Project Evaluation Committee. So, but in order to meet all those deadlines, we have to get something in by tomorrow. So, in reviewing the funding criteria, we determined the best chances for success involve the following. First one is a Southwest King County Regional Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan. We're proposing a $250,000 planning project for that. We'll be asking for $200,000, Estimated city match would be $50,000, which may end up being shared by partner agencies in this part of the county. For the city safety program, there's two sub-programs. There's systemic and spot locations. For the systemic, we're proposing pedestrian crossing enhancements. We've got about a dozen locations that have been on the want list for a while, and also going to be looking at some enhancements to existing crossings. So we're proposing a $1.5 million project, asking the grant funding agency for $1.2 million, and we would provide $300,000, which is actually the size of our existing pedestrian enhancement program. And finally, the city safety spot location, Highway 99 at South 373rd. You may recall we applied for a grant here for the Transportation Improvement Board. We did not get that, so we're looking to this program to provide some seed money to get that project moving. So we'll be requesting $1.5 million. Our estimated city match will be $500,000. So I kind of skipped ahead here. So one of the things with the 99 at 373rd project, we're likely to have a development in Milton that would be providing additional funding for that. And we would be looking at the operations and maintenance as part of the next budget cycle. So just to give you a little bit of reason why we're looking at this regional bicycle and pedestrian plan, is this is the existing regional trails plan that King County has put together. So the red is proposed, the green is existing, and as you can see, we're kind of out here by ourselves. And as we heard with the City Center Access Project, we have seen several requests to provide a connection between BPA Trail across I-5 to Points East, and we would propose at least we should be connecting to the interurban trail down in the Green Valley. But it would be nice if we could get some additional regional connections as well. So again, as I described the pedestrian enhancements, this is, you know, the rectangular rapid flashing beacons have been very popular and successful. One area that we've noted, though, is the ones that are mounted in the medians get hit a lot. And so we are proposing to retrofit some of those with an aerial type application, which would also allow us to provide better lighting at these crossings. So that would be part of the proposal. And then finally, 99 373rd, as I'm sure most of you are aware, we had another fatality out there yesterday, and that makes 4 fatalities in 11 years. So this project is designed to prevent those, and either through the construction of median barrier or improving the safety of the intersection at 373rd itself with the roundabouts helping manage speed. So median treatments would also prevent all these crossing center line collisions.
That's truly tragic.
Yes, it is.
Really, really. You and I were talking about that today. It's really.
Yes. So, options considered. Option 1 is to authorize staff to submit the proposed grant applications for these transportation projects, or 2, do not authorize staff to submit the applications and provide direction to staff. The mayor's recommendation is option 1, authorizing us to submit those grant applications. Any questions?
Councilmember Kochmar.
Thank you. So I'm really happy to see we're doing something or trying to do something about 373rd. I'm trying to understand how, you know, because that was a garbage truck, I think, that hit somebody went over the center line and hit head on with the garbage. So at 373rd, so there's going to be a huge roundabout at that, and that's the intersection that leads into Milton right there by the tavern or whatever there is on the corner?
No, it's on this side of the city limits. It's the one that goes across Spring Valley. And then provides the back way into Todd Beamer High School, or you can cross I-5 at 375th.
Oh. So is that, because that's such a busy road, I'm trying to figure out how that's going to work.
So there's been several high-speed roundabouts constructed even in this state. There's 4 on Highway 539 if you head north out of Bellingham on Guide Meridian. There's 4 of them between there and Ferndale. They have been successful. Maryland DOT and Colorado Department of Transportation have also put in lots of high-speed location roundabouts. Kansas also. So, so yes, they can actually outperform the safety of a traffic signal at less cost.
All right, Deputy Mayor Honda?
So as the representative to skateboard, I'll do my best. Just be there to help me.
Indeed.
And 373rd, you know, in the beginning, when roundabouts, we first started talking about them, I didn't really like them, but I like them now. And in my estimation, I think one of the issues on Pack Highway are the increased semi-trucks that are coming out of Fife, since Fife has completely turned into the land of the semis. And I know it's a state highway. I know that we can't stop those semis, but they come straight out of Fife and then turn down Highway 18, and they make a mess out of our streets too. So I wish the state would require that they went on I-5 to get to Highway 18. I think we would have a safer Pack Highway.
Yes. I think in the long haul, the 167 extension between the Port of Tacoma, first phase would be to I-5. And that should make it easier that the trucks will not have to go through 54th or Port of Tacoma Road to get to I-5 from the port. And hopefully that will make it easier. I would note that 167 connection does not include any access to Highway 99. So it'll be easier for them to go that way, and hopefully they will.
Thank you for your work. I appreciate it.
I think that money for that change was included in the budget 2 years ago in the state transportation budget.
Correct. That was part of the Connecting Washington package.
Okay, Council, any other questions, comments? All right, Councilmember Copang, do you have a motion?
I do. I move to authorize the staff to submit the proposed grant applications for transportation projects.
Second.
Is there a motion? There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, matter passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Okay, first reading on Council Bill 774. First, we'll have a staff report by City Attorney Ryan Call.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Council. I'm here to present an ordinance that will accomplish the goal of creating an information technology department. So the issue presented is, should Council approve this ordinance to create the department? Some background. Currently, the IT department, we call it, even internally, we often refer to it as a department. It is not. It is a division of the mayor's office run by a manager, an IT manager. The mayor, after quite some time working under this paradigm, has concluded that the IT division, given its workload, its importance to the city, its relative budget, it should be a department. And so he has asked me to draft this ordinance that would accomplish making the IT department a department. It would also create a position of IT department director, which would be like the other directors of the city, appointed by the mayor and confirmed by council. The current intention of the mayor is to appoint the incumbent IT manager, Thomas Fickner, as the new IT director, and we would come back after the creation of the department for confirmation of that. The nuts and bolts of the ordinance, it's pretty straightforward. The ordinance in the packet, it is strike through on things that will be removed and underline for things that will be added. It adds a new chapter 2.16 to the Federal Way Revised Code related to the IT department, and then it strikes references to the IT division in the mayor's office section of the code. The IT department's functions would be what they are now, which are to provide information system services, control communication services, GIS services, which are geographical information services, maps, things like that, and then procurement and maintenance of all of the hardware needed to do those functions. The director, like I said, will be appointed by the mayor, approved by council, and then the job description is in the code for the director. I'm not going to read all of it, but it's basically be in charge of all the IT stuff. So, are there any questions?
Council, any questions? Councilmember Moore.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. I think this is a good move. It's a smart move. I know there's much of a, I suspect, and I believe there's more of an intent for us to support and do what we can to support the IT department. Is there any financial effect to this? I imagine there would be.
Yes, so that is in the staff report. I should have put it in the slideshow. There will be an increase in salary for the director. Obviously, director makes more than a manager, is more responsible. Beyond that, there would be no increase under the current budget. The intent is for the IT department to function under the division's budget that was pitched to council at the last budget. But obviously, this signals an intent to increase the size and function of the department, and I would expect that in future budgets, they'll be asked for additional administrative personnel and other people that a department has.
Certainly, and this would be addressed through the adjusted budget?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Councilmember Savedowski.
Thank you. It's a comment. I really support this, and I know we all do because this has been presented, and I think it's about time, and we really I wanted to say thank you to Thomas and his team for all the work that they have done as a division. They are the brain of our community, and that's the only way we function. And I'm glad they haven't gone on strike so far. And I look forward also to them being fully staffed to where they can be truly functional. And so this is a great move. Thank you.
Yes, Thomas has certainly done a great job in that position. This actually restores, this was historically a department, and during the Great Recession had been compressed down, much like Parks had been combined with Public Works, and we separated those out. This is once again an effort to make sure that we've got the right system in place to address our concerns. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, Ryan. Okay, are there any citizen comments on this issue? Any citizen comment? Okay, hearing none. Council, any further questions? Okay, would the Deputy City Clerk please read the ordinance title?
Council Bill 774, ordinance related to the creation of an information technology department. An ordinance of the City of Federal Way, Washington, related to the creation of an information technology department, amending Federal Way Revised Code 2.11.040, and adding new section 2.16 to Title II.
All right. Councilmember Tran, do you have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I am honored to make this historic motion. I move to forward the proposed ordinance to the February 18, 2020 council meeting for second reading and enactment.
Second.
It's been a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. All right, council reports. Councilmember Seffi Dawson.
I attended a few meetings since our last council meeting. One of them is the Highline Forum, and all cities that were present shared their legislative agenda, and it was just great to see that information and to also hear the commonalities of other cities, especially South King County cities and their needs that are really basically the same, and what they were presenting or proposing to their own legislators was very similar. I bummed that I wasn't able to go to attend or participate in the All Home Count Us In, which I've always done, but I was away that weekend, and so I look forward to the report coming out around the homeless population that was counted in Federal Way. I was in Olympia on the 29th, and a group of Federal Way High School students were there from the, one of the clubs, the Latinx club, and they talked about 5 of the bills that were very relevant to their communities, to their lives, and to representing their families. And I was really impressed at how prepared they were and the time they spent understanding all the different bills and preparing to speak to their legislators. And so I went with them when they talked to Representative Jesse Johnson, and then also we were trying to get to talk to Senator Claire Wilson and also Mark. And the kids were so excited, and they got to meet the governor also. And so just seeing a group of 14, 16-year-old kids very excited about the process and learning how the process works and preparing them to be the next generation to do this work was just really impressive, and I was glad to see that in action. And yeah, it really was exciting to see these kids get excited to speak to, especially to Jesse Johnson. They were just so delighted because he also graduated from their school. And so just being a part of that, and I would just like to encourage us to always encourage our youth to engage in civic engagement and participate in making a difference, because they don't always understand that they can make a difference. And so that was exciting for me to witness. I actually abandoned the group because it was raining and I was closer to my car than the next place. So I left without even notifying them, so I don't even know when they noticed that was not with them anymore. But that is my report, and thank you.
Great. Councilmember Tran.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have anything. Good to be home.
Great. Good to have you home. Councilmember Copay.
I wanted to begin, and I know I'm going to miss somebody in this process, but we have, as a community, I think, a great tradition of getting citizen involvement through shared passion. And I had an opportunity to meet with the Parks Pals, but this, just to talk about this tradition of engagement by the community, just a few of the organizations that have been birthed here in Federal Way and are thriving are Fusion, the Federal Way Coalition Against Trafficking, We Love Our City, Friends of the High Lobos, Federal Way Caregiving Network, Federal Way Cares, Do the Right Thing. But anyway, so it's just like this long history of people getting engaged. It's so gratifying. But Parks Pals is a group that has adopted the French Lake Park, which is a dog park here in Federal Way, and have really, I think, done a very good job of creating ownership there and accountability with the staff, and really being engaged in trying to create the best possible park there. And I met with them and with their board, and really got to hear, I think, some of the challenges they're facing right now. I think some of them are due to the site itself and some of the challenges that are inherently with that. Also, I think weather has created some issues. But again, I think that we've got a group of people that really want to make this city great, and I can't say enough about how gratifying that is as one member of the community that happens to serve on the council, to be part of a community that really does get engaged. I think, actually, now that I think about it, the Youth Action Team is another group that responded, I think, to the call with the coalition, with the when we did the study on youth violence. And so, again, that's one more group. I knew I was going to miss somebody. I'm glad I remembered them. But again, great organizations, creating solutions, being engaged. I think that really is a hallmark of the Federal Way as a city. Also, I did a field trip with the advisor to the mayor, Bill Badino, down to Lakewood, just to get a little better understanding of how they've addressed both panhandling and some of the issues that are surrounding that. We are really, I think, as a city, as a member of the council, I think it's incumbent on me to listen to the concerns of the citizens. And panhandling, I think especially aggressive panhandling, has become more of an issue. And definitely want to make sure that if we're going to take any action, obviously it's going to come through the consensus of the council. But again, doing some investigative efforts to see if we can come up with policies that address the address the issues that we face in a compassionate and effective manner that respect the rights of everyone. And definitely looking forward to continued conversations on that at the Land Use and Transportation Committee. In addition to that, did get to have some fun. Went to Center Stage Theater to see Let There Be Love. It was the world premiere. The writer and the director both were there. And again, it's a fun show. Definitely a modern twist on the rom-com, and it was enjoyable. I really did. I would recommend it. So, if you are looking for some fun on a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, go to Center Stage and see Let There Be Love. And I'll conclude my report with that.
All right, Councilmember Moore.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Copeland, I appreciate you talking about Parks Pal. You just helped me remember the time that I once dressed up as Santa Claus and had so many different little dogs on my lap. It was just lots of Santa beard in my mouth. It just caused me to remember that. I think it's one of those good little memories I have. So Parks Pals, they do a lot of phenomenal things and great things for fundraising and promotion as well. So that was during their.
I'm just taking that in, man. I'm really visualizing the whole
It
Santa
was
experience.
the Santa Paws photo
Oh, yeah.
shoot is what the event was.
Okay,
So
all right.
I could tell you were kind of thinking,
processing, yeah.
processing things.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you were processing, didn't say anything. So, so I'm glad you talked about that, Councilmember Copain. Parks Pal is a phenomenal group, and so. Panhandling, one of the things, I've been on this dais, I've been here on behalf of the public for 7 years, and we listen to all sorts of issues, both popular and unpopular issues, whatever it may be. And panhandling is an issue that has been discussed for such a long time, even when Councilor Coachmar has been on the council back in the beginning, I'm sure, in the 90s. Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, I'm sure it was discussed at some point during your time on the city council before. But it's been a long issue, and I'm absolutely grateful to Councilor Copain for sitting down with me and listening to me on this issue, putting some thought into it. And I know I've picked the mayor's brain on this, and sometimes, we can't convince each other sometimes, but sometimes we can, and sometimes we just have to go through this process. And I'm really impressed with the conversation that took place at the Land Use and Transportation, because the questions were coming from how do we work with this versus this is a terrible idea. And I think there are people out in the community that want us to create a solution for this. This is why they elected us. And this is a long-time issue, and this is just a sliver of an answer. This does not address everything. There's a lot that goes into panhandling, but this is just one side of it that we're looking at addressing right now. So I'm really happy with how that's taking place and taking shape. Also, as we just had our retreat, and so I thought it was one of the better retreats, quite frankly, and just because we were walking away with clear goals, with action plans, where they're in our committees, and the best part is that in quarterly, we're going to come back and update the council and the public of how we're doing, and that's one of the elements that was kind of missing. So in years past, we have these goals, and then kind of drifted off a little bit. And so this kind of puts a marker every so often for us to report back to the people and about how our progress is doing. And I think is really important. And I like the issues that we've covered in there. And particularly, I know I've asked for this before, but I'm looking forward to the vision and the goals to be framed and put out in city properties, meaning buildings, specifically, so that people understand what our vision is and what our goals are, and any other publication, perhaps. I think that's really is important. And so there's more to say, but I think I will end my report with that. Thank you.
That's where I'm more true to my word at the retreat. We put this on the agenda for management team yesterday, and as soon as we get the report back from Andrew Ballard and have the exact wording of these, and we've got it, but we want to make sure that there's an agreed upon exact wording of these goals. We will put that out. We'll reach out to Steve Heiserman over at Parks. We'll put it on some nice graphing, throw it in a frame, and put it around. So it'll represent the hard work that the council did this weekend. Councilmember Coachman.
In answer to Councilmember Moore's question about ancient times, we actually did have panhandlers. It was just different. What we had back then was we had aggressive panhandling. And what they were doing was they were following people to their cars in parking lots or knocking on windows. And that's when we passed the aggressive panhandling ordinance. So now they're more relegated to certain areas. Yeah, oh, they do? Okay. Okay, and with regard to by the way, with the dog park, I don't know if you know this, but when they were discussing that, really in ancient times, way back in the beginning, everybody said it wouldn't work because it was too small. And it's been great ever since. People have loved it. I'm sure some of the neighbors weren't so happy, but actually, we don't get very many complaints about that at all. So as far as with the council retreat, my charge was to deal with homelessness and parks revenue. So with regard to the homeless, I'd just like to throw this out, not for a discussion now, but just because homelessness is such a huge topic. You start with wanting to keep people in their homes, then you go on from that to you've got the addiction problems and possibly rehab connection with that. Then you have mental health, how to deal with that, and beds, mental health beds. And then you have housing, which Councilmember Chair Kopang is dealing with increasing density, such as detached accessory dwelling units in the neighborhoods, so that we have people who are able to buy, actually, our children, when they want to buy, they can't buy the big house on the big lot. But what they could buy would be a condo or a triplex, part of a triplex or a duplex or a fourplex. And so part of the issue we have to deal with is our housing density, not necessarily apartments, because that's not getting us anywhere. So we need to change our thinking on that. But then I have another idea. And I'm just going to throw this out, nothing to talk about right now, but for revenue, parks revenue, I know that Mayor Farrell and I have been talking about changing our turf fields and getting some federal grants for that, working on that. But I'd like to also suggest at some point, I don't know if we can do this, adopt a road or adopt a park, because we don't have the maintenance, we don't have the personnel to pick up the litter in the road, and I'm noticing that it's getting worse. And I'm just wondering if, for example, We Love Our City, Shelley Pauls, would like, I don't know, because they'll be in the roads or they'll be in the parks, or I'm not sure about the liability issues, but I know that we have a lot of adopt our roads in various parts of the state, and I just would like to throw that out, just ideas to think about. I'm working on it already.
Great.
So, but what I really do want to talk to you too, I did go to the Puget Sound Regional Council for their, I felt like kind of like an albatross in the room, because it was supposed to be for newly elected, but everybody was saying, hey, Linda, how are you doing? And so that was kind of fun. But, and I was chair of the PIC, Public Issues Committee, for 2 years. And Deanna was looking at me, Dawson, the chair of Suburban Cities, said, okay, what are you going to volunteer for this time? And I said, nothing. No, I didn't. I just said, I'm not sure. But it was fun being back at Puget Sound Regional Council and hearing how they're now talking about Vision 2050, going out to 2050, and how many people are going to be coming into this area. And we have a huge problem on our hands, and we're only way to do it. How do you eat an elephant? One bit at a time. So that's the only way we're going to do it. But anyway, thank you. I'm working on my projects already. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Deputy Mayor Honda.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Korean community. Last Thursday, they had an appreciation lunch, and it was here in this room, and it was for city staff, South King Fire and Rescue, and the City of Federal Way leaders, and the police department. And they had way too much food, and it was really awesome. They talked about making it an annual event, and it was really great. So thank you to the Korean community for that. My husband and I were fortunate enough to chaperone the junior ROTC ball again this year, and this year it was last weekend or the weekend before. And it was on the base, and we rode the school bus with the kids to the base. And it was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to be around kids who are so enthusiastic and they're awesome. You know, the Federal Way High School program meets before school, like at 5:30 in the morning, and those kids are dedicated. Who wants to get up and be at school and ready to do your day at that point? But over 100 kids do. So it's, and their leaders are generally care about them and about the community. And Todd Beamer also has a group, so awesome. It was just a lot of fun. I did get up and go to the point in time count, and Catherine's smiling because she checked me in. I'm not sure now why I think about it why I was in Algona counting down in Algona, and why Algona folks weren't counting their area, because they know it better than we know it. But my area this time included over by North Lake and the unincorporated areas and all the way down into Algona. And I would say this is, I think it could be my 4th year that I've done it, at least my 3rd year. I'm not convinced it's the best way that we count our homeless, my 4th year. I don't know a better way. I know Pierce County has a different way, and maybe other areas around the country have a different way of counting the homeless, but I'm not sure that this is the best way. We're not allowed to get out of the car for safety. If we were to run into someone that's homeless, you can't talk to them. So you're making an assumption if they're male, female, how old they are. And I would like to see it improved. I don't know that we as a city could do that. I believe we have to work with King County because it's a regional issue and it's a regional count. But I just think that there has to be a better way to get a better figure, and so we know we have a better idea of who is homeless in Federal Way and why they're homeless and how we can help them better. And let's see. Oh, I haven't been feeling well today, so I stayed home most of the day, and I was watching Channel 23, which is Olympia, and there was the House Local Government Committee had some bills coming through. One of the bills is House Bill 2911, which talks about panhandling and or begging. That was actually part of the title. And it's talks about the firefighters getting donations. So it would be interesting for y'all to read up on it, because there were some things in there that the ACLU did not agree with. They don't support it. The Police Chiefs and Sheriffs Association does not support it, because it actually talks about going into the road and getting donations, like fill a booth kind of thing. And so it would be interesting to read, and for at least us to follow this bill as it goes through. And my last thing is the retreat. We've been planning it since last summer, and the biggest person we all need to thank is Jerry Lynn Clark. She does a tremendous amount of work on the retreat, and if you haven't said thank you to her, please do, because it's successful because of her. So thank you very much.
Okay. With that, we are adjourned. Great job, everybody.